Hey everyone, how's it going? Welcome back to the channel. Today's episode is an interview with someone I admire and respect very much as an architect and as a person. If I had to use one word to describe him, it would be generous. He is generous in his work, in his practice, and is just an incredibly generous and wonderful person. Scott Kemp is a sole practitioner who's been working with Indigenous communities for the past 15 years. And before that, he's worked with architects like Shin Takamatsu and Bing Tom. And before he started his own practice, he was a partner at Omicron, but he decided to follow his passion when he started working with First Nations communities. I thought it would be interesting to hear from him because right now I feel like a lot of us are learning and relearning how to engage with our communities, especially the ones who's been marginalized throughout history. And as you know, the Indigenous people of Canada have been chronically mistreated throughout history. And so we will take a look at how he helps to create positive change in these communities through some of his projects. Scott also sits on a lot of local and national committees, including the CALA, the Canadian Architectural Licensing Authorities, and the AIBC, the Architectural Institution of Canada, and the AFBC, the Architectural Foundation of Canada. And he was also the past president of the AIBC. Right now, it seems that there is a push for change in the profession. And so I wanted to hear his thoughts on our roles as architects, as well as his thoughts on the future of the profession. Yeah, I just had a document from UBC leaked to me from one of my friends, and they are requesting a lot of changes within the program, and one of them is actually more diversity within the faculty. So right now, if you have more academic experience, or if you went to a prestigious university, then your experience has higher value than someone who has like 10 years of working with communities or working in the field. And yeah, I thought that was pretty interesting.
It's actually a really nasty catch-22, because if you're interested in teaching, you're almost forced not to practice. Because any university, if you're working towards tenure, you have to do research. Practice isn't considered research. So you end up having to do one or the other. And I think that's a big problem. I think you want more, not just sessional teachers, full-time teachers, that also practice.
Yeah, for sure.
That's critical. And the academia, if you have some academics, that's fine. They seem to really like the star architect. That's their whole bent. I'm not really sure why, but I think there needs to be a better balance. That, there's some need or requirement for an academic view on architecture, but that needs to be tempered with the practice. It needs to be both. And if an unbalanced one way or another, like I think most of our universities are too academic in the practice of architecture. And I think it should swing back the other way.
Yeah, well, that's what a lot of, I'm a part of the Young Architects Conference, and that's sort of the common theme, that like we want the academics to be more grounded in reality.
And this whole desire to do Star Tech, in reality, very, very few buildings are such that it gives you that opportunity.
Oh yeah, like you're kind of designing your path for that 1% or like 0.5%.
Well, yeah, they've trained all the architects. They'll never have the opportunity to do that. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
That's kind of silly. But what do you want out of the profession? like that's the one beauty about architecture. It's so diverse.
Mm-hmm.
There's so many opportunities in architecture that you can find your own path.
And so how long have you been working with First Nation communities?
Oh, 15 years, yeah, probably.
So what made you make that drastic shift from, you were a partner at Omicron, right?
Yep. Well, it's kind of what I mentioned earlier. What do you love to do?
Mm-hmm.
To do architecture.
Yeah.
The actual architecture. I'm not a businessman. In fact, I'm probably, I would say, a really lousy businessman. I don't want to market and manage firms.
Yeah. No website.
No website. I like doing it.
Yeah.
Meeting with communities, I like coming up with the design, I like doing the drawings, I like going on site, swinging a hammer. It's a bit of a trap, this profession. So as you get older and as you get into more senior positions, bad thing is you do less and less architecture. Right. And I said, well, that's nuts. That's crazy. So at that point, I said, okay, well, I'm going to start my own firm. It's going to be me. People work on contract with me. I have a gentleman, Michael, that's worked with me from day one, and he's great. So he's very good at doing drawings. He's very good at helping me. Have Kelly. There's another gentleman, Ryan, another young architect. Again, there's no firm for me to hand over. There's no firm for somebody to buy. What I'm trying to do is help young people start. So I'm helping Kelly. So I'm helping Ryan. So they can use my portfolio, my work, to start their own firms.
That's a very selfless approach to practicing architecture. You're, creating capacity at the firm level, or I guess not firm, at the practice level, and then at the project level with the communities.
Creating capacity. I have very simple criteria. I don't do a project if I don't think it's going to be fun. That's it. I'm smart enough and I can be selective enough. That's what I do. If it looks like it's not going to be fun, I say, I'd love to do it, but I'm just too busy. What do you want out of your career? Ask yourself that now. And then create a path leading to that. Because don't work for 20 years and then think, oh, well, what should I do now? What do you want now? Do you want your own firm? What kind of firm do you want? What kind of work do you want to do? What money do you want to make? What kind of projects do you want to do? How do you want to do them? Ask yourself those questions, and you will more likely get yourself into a position where you're enjoying yourself, doing what you want. We tend to be too project focused as architects. We're working on the project that we have at the moment. We design our own career, our own project. So you need to do that.
If you could name 3 skills that young architects should develop, what would it be?
Passion. You need to know what you do.
Okay.
And then you need to develop all the tools. So you need to be able to listen, to get the kind of input needed. And then you need to be able to express that, like to draw, be able to visualize. Do it in front of people.
Yeah, that's
it's a profession. Tough. We run away and we design it, and then we come back and we say, don't you love it? Here it is. How nice it is. I think that's wrong. If you really want to design for a community, you need to do it in front of them and do it with them. You need to be inclusive.
Right.
To share the process with them.
Don't hide behind your office and surprise them with it.
You don't want to sell them. Again, especially with Indigenous communities, because they've had things sold to them all the time, or their throats more accurately. To me, the fun is actually working with them.
So develop your passion, develop your skills, and learn to work with people.
Listen.
Learn to listen.
Listen's the most important thing, because we don't often listen.
Yeah.
We're the presenters. We stand up front and present our projects. We defend our projects. That's how we're trained to do it.
We get critiqued.
We get critiqued. That's wrong. That's the wrong way to do architecture. Especially community-based architecture. It's architecture, sure. If you want to do community-based architecture, it's a team effort. And that's the other thing, is you need to inspire. You are the team leader, right? You're seen as the kind of visionary. But that's even on site, right? You need to inspire the workers, right? You don't go on site kind of as the arrogant architect, criticizing everything. On site saying, oh, this is fantastic. You guys are doing a great job. This is brilliant. The kids love this, right? You need to do it as a profession.
Yeah, these little soft skills are things that you're expected to know, but it's rarely talked about or taught in schools.
Again, the saying is, the hard stuff is easy and it's easy stuff that's hard. So like we're trained to do architecture. That's the easy stuff. Hard stuff is the soft skills of inspiring people. Opportunities in projects.
Yeah, so right now there's a big push from the younger generation of architects for change in the profession, especially in regards to diversity. And you sit on a lot of boards. I want to get your thoughts on what needs to happen. What do you think will happen in the future of the profession?
Well, certainly diversity is a big issue, and it's talked about a lot nationally. Again, we tend to be still stereotyped as the old white guys. I think that's changing. I think it could change faster. Like, for instance, yourself, people like Kelly. These are the young stars in our profession. Most kind of institutionalized entities tend to have a kind of momentum and weight to them, and it's hard to change directions. It does take time. But I think the most influence you can have is individually. That's why I spent the time helping Kelly get registered. That's why I'm spending time helping Kelly and Ryan start their own firm. Because that transition to your own firm is a huge issue. It's a huge challenge. How can you get work? How can you survive financially? But with what I've done over the last few years, I can help them. And I think, to me, you can do, the kind of changes on a bigger scale happen slowly, but you can also make changes at a kind of more personal scale. For instance, BIFA, again, it was a little program that we started in BC. Now it's Canada-wide. So foreign trained architects, again, I think that's hugely important. Effectively, I'm a foreign trained architect. I'm, trained in the UK. When I moved back to Canada, they didn't recognize my qualifications whatsoever. So I had to do the whole internship again.
Oh, really?
The whole thing. I got my degrees certified by CACB. I did the internship. I wrote all the NCARB exams. I did the oral exam. I did the whole thing. To me, that was crazy. When I was approached about setting up BIFA, I said, yeah, of course. That's what it should be. Right? We should be open and recognize each other. So we're working, we've signed quite a few MRAs, mutual recognition agreements. So Canada has a reciprocity with the States, but we just signed about 5 years ago, reciprocity with Australia and New Zealand. We've signed reciprocity with Europe. So all 27 countries in Europe, we recognize their architects, recognize architects in Canada. So again, I think those are the broad steps that you can make the profession stronger. It should be open and inclusive. the more diversity we have, the stronger we are. Because we're a very small number in the world. Like in Canada, we have somewhere around 10,000 architects, thereabouts. I think there's many hundreds of thousands of lawyers in Canada. 10,000 isn't very much. But if we work collectively, voice is much louder than the individual.
And I think when you start working, it's kind of hard to find the time to be involved in other things outside of your project. You seem like the kind of person who genuinely enjoys all these extracurricular activities.
Yeah, they're again, I work with very nice people, but we're doing good work that benefits the profession, so you can't ask for anything more. The challenge though is, like, we always want younger practitioners. Part of the challenge is prioritizing. So when you're young in your career, say for yourself, in the next, say, 5 years, like if you want your own firm, you have to focus on that. So how much time do you have doing, like, volunteer at the AIBC, volunteering nationally? More towards the end of your career, when your firm's more established, it seems that's when people get involved in those sort of activities.
I think the air of everything right now, it's a lot of young people are getting mobilized, and really they want to be a more active member of the profession. So I think in the next few years, we will see a lot more younger people in these committees.
Which is good. Again, the RBC isn't this, abstract entity. It's you. ABC is the Registered Architects of BC, right? Mm-hmm. Are the members. We govern, we control it. The ABC has staff, but staff's under the direction of council. So if you want to change what the ABC is doing, that's the mechanism to do
it. Lower the fees.
Well, again, that's an interesting one. A lot of people will say that, because like in the States, like I'm registered in Washington, costs $100. But they're not self-regulating. It's regulated by the government. We are truly self-regulating. And as far as I know, we're the last country in the world where architects are truly self-regulating. The authority that we have to govern the profession has been pulled back in almost every other country that I know of. We have full authority to do it. So that's fantastic. What that means is we need to fund it. And that's your membership.
What are some of the tangible benefits of being self-regulating?
We set up BIFA. Government had no say in that. We did it. We signed the MRAs. We did. Government has no say in it.
Right.
It's that decision.
So if the government was involved, it would be a much longer process.
Yeah, there's, like we signed Australia, New Zealand through what's called APEC. There's that, it's the Asia Pacific Economic Corporation or something. So there's a trade deal, APEC. And with a lot of the countries we met, we suggested to them, Canada did, let's do an MRI so we recognize each other. Almost everyone said, well, we don't have the authority to do it. We can't do it.
Oh, interesting.
Government has to do it. Australia and New Zealand are similar to us. They don't have as much authority as we do, but they do. So we were able to negotiate with them. Hong Kong, Philippines, Singapore, Malaysia, they all said, we can't do it. The government controls that.
Oh, interesting.
And even Europe, there's what they call ACE, Architects Council of Europe. And that's who we negotiated with and signed the MRA with. But they have to go back to each of their entities. And none of them have the authority that we have. We just decide. We don't need the government's approval to do this. We have the government's support. The government actually likes us doing this. But we have the authority to do it.